Good morning, Chris Tuttle. How you doing?
Hey, Ben, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing great. I love this market. I love this market. I love this market. Now, um, we're doing a De-SPAC. Last week we talked about De-SPACs that might have short squeezes, so maybe we'll do a follow up on that on the tail end. But perfect timing to talk about this De-SPAC today. Columbia Acquisition Group, CLBR. We alerted our community to this when it was $10.40 a couple nights ago. It ran to close to $14 yesterday. Today's the De-SPAC vote. It was at 10 a.m. this morning. I don't know if it's finished. I assume it is. I don't see a PR yet. And then if that goes through, they're supposed to change their ticker symbol tomorrow to PSQ, I believe, or PSQH, Public Square. So that's the background. Let us know. What did you find about this so far?
Well, it's it's a great trading name. You obviously need to be fleet of foot with this one. I've already traded it. I'm not really a trader, but I mean, I already traded it twice yesterday, I guess. Went long, sold it, bought the puts, sold half of those because it had really that weird behavior yesterday where it kind of really dumped hard at the in the afternoon for reasons that nobody's ever going to know.
That happens very often with these specs.
Yeah. Well, and we haven't even seen what would be the usual dump, which would be post deal. And again, so just to take a step back here to cover the fundamentals, which I'm covering the fundamentals mainly to say that they don't matter because there are no fundamentals on this one.
Are there none? I think that they have a business, I think.
Well, not really. I mean, I think everybody knows the story here. They're going to create a, so this is basically like a red Etsy, or, a red Amazon or something like that, where it's going to be like, if you are religious and you have American values and you're made in America, we're going to have this platform. And that's where people are going to be able to put their commerce and buying behavior like in alignment with their social and like political beliefs. So they have an app, they have been signing people up, they have like over 1 million active consumers, but they're still kind of getting ready. The CEO would say like we're ready to be unleashed once this deal goes through.
Right.
So I think this is going to trade, at least in the near term, quite a bit more on sentiment than anything else.
So I'm curious. I know you probably have your own things you want to add, but I really want your take on what you found out regarding redemptions, which were announced the other night, what their cash position is going to be, and what that implies for valuation. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, the redemptions were released. I'm just going to pull up the number. And actually, you're in the same. I'm going to move you. Redemptions were 14.3 million. That's 83%. So that means about 3 million shares are going to remain, and that is so that's like 3 million shares, 30 million in cash that'll be in the trust. So
what does that mean? 30 million cash. That's what's going to go to the new company after the merger?
That's what's left over in the trust account.
Okay.
I'm trying to see. I don't see an additional chunk of money. So so they're going to have 30 million after that.
So that when you say that's what's left over in the trust, so the way it works is, I guess, the lower the redemptions are, the more money cash, right? More cash that goes to the company post merger, and the higher redemptions, the less money goes to the company post merger.
That's correct. That's correct.
So
of the 175 million they thought they were going to have, they're going to have 30 million.
I see. So how do you determine like is it good news or bad news? Like, you know, you have more experience with SPACs. Like, what redemption number is kind of like the ideal number in terms of the right balance between, hey, the company is going to get a nice amount of cash and the float's going to be whatever. Is there a nice balance there? Is 83% considered? Is that bullish for a stock, you think, or bearish? What's your view on that?
You know, there's no set formula, Ben. I'd like to say that there is, but you know, the fact is, you know, high redemptions are indicative of usually lower prices going forward, because it tells you that the vast majority of people don't believe it's worth more than $10 a share.
Right. They'd rather have $10 cash in the stock.
Right.
Right.
So generally speaking, right, that's bad. The only reason there's been a saving grace to that is that, you know, there's a segment of the retail investing population that has realized that some of these very low float de-SPACs can be driven to, you know, to high numbers because of that low float.
Right.
You know, we saw it with what is it, Shutterstock or no, Getty Images. Jesus Christ. You know, people just drove the crap out of it, and then, you know, eventually fundamentals kick in and it goes to $3. So, so in the case of this one, you know, you've got an extra element, which is this whole, I don't know what the Trumps are up to, but, you know, there's this sort of, there's been a lot of promotion around this thing.
Donald,
like,
I didn't research it in depth, but I did see from Donald Trump Jr. He tweeted, but he did disclose that he has a position. So he's an investor. I don't know what form or fashion that takes when he says he's an investor in CLBR, or when he invested. I don't know anything about that, but he's been promoting it like crazy.
Yeah, and so that's, you know, that's one of the things that's you know, that's fueling the stock right here. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I've got no long left, so I've sold. Got no long position now, and even though I sold half my puts yesterday at a nice profit, but, you know, I'm looking to, you know, add to my put position essentially.
So is 83%? Is that considered in your? Is that high redemption number?
Yeah, that's high. I mean, you know, we've had SPACs that, you know, a lot of SPAC redemptions are like, you know, in the 90s percentage wise, because it has not been, you know, it hasn't been a very good way to make money, right? Like even deals that I thought would be decent, you know, went down a lot. Like there was a Bitcoin company that's more in the vending space, and I thought, you know, hey, this is pretty good, but no, they went down a lot. So,
so what? No, so what's this tell us about valuation in terms of the amount that are redeemed? Does that impact the valuation at all?
Well, obviously there's less cash. There is a wrinkle in this deal that I'm not sure exactly what it means, but so
I think it was a 200. Wasn't it 200 million is what it was valued at $10? Is that, am I off on that?
The equity, yeah. The total enterprise value, if you back out redemptions, the total enterprise value is 258 million.
Okay.
And now, if you back out those redemptions, that number is going to go down by, you know, 140 million. Well, no, I mean, the equity value is going to be higher. So think of it this way. So let's just, in round numbers, there's 40 million shares outstanding. Like just, you know, put that out there. So you're looking at, you know, 400-ish plus, you know, $1 million market cap. Now, one wrinkle here, which I have to go through the SEC filings to figure out, I don't know how this mechanically works, but so a lot of SPACs have what are called earn-out shares that go to the like existing management team. And this company has earn-out shares. However, the the number of earnout shares is going to be based on the post-close trading price.
I saw something about that. The post close on which day? Tomorrow?
Well, that's what I mean. Mechanically, I don't know on, what are they talking about? Is it the first day? Is it, it should be more like a 20-day moving average. But in any case,
there's some sort of incentive there to manipulate the price.
Well, I mean, it makes you wonder, right? Like if I'm an insider and my shares are going to be based on the the post close trading price, like I want that trading price as low as possible, right? Not high. I'm not sure they have a say, right? The insiders are.
I think DWAC had a similar thing with Trump, by the way.
Yeah, DWAC. Wow, that was a whole other.
That deal never closed, but also it's to Trump's benefit if post merger the price is as low as possible, then like Trump gets more shares or something.
Well, I don't know if Trump is part of the earnout. Normally, that would be operating management people that are going to get that.
Yeah.
So the CEO, for instance, is going to get that.
So sorry, let me go back to the valuation. If you're saying it's like 400 million valuation, but doesn't that get reduced by the amount of these shares that are being redeemed? Aren't those shares like retired or something?
It's a pretty small amount. The redemption number doesn't have a gigantic impact on the number of shares.
So what? All right, if you incorporate that redemption, the stock's trading at 1160 now. How do you calculate what the market cap? What market cap does this imply, or what enterprise value does this imply here at $11.60? How do we calculate that?
It's still 40. Just use 40 million shares.
That's it. 40 million.
40 million. Just use 40 million shares.
So what did I see about a $200 million valuation at $10? So it's not. I didn't interpret that right.
The rollover equity at $10 a share for the founders is 200 million. It's you're not gonna the swing here isn't the only numbers that matter are the float and total shares. So the float's small, 3 million shares, and there's 40 million shares out there. So, I mean, obviously they're not in the float right now. So you've got a manipulation opportunity in that, hey, 3 million shares is not that much. It's 30-ish million, dollars, right? You can throw that around. So, those are the numbers that are going to determine the near-term price action, right?
I hear that. But from a fundamental perspective, as we're approaching 12, you're talking about a $500 million enterprise value. So it's already starting to look kind of rich here at $12.
Well, I mean, that's my opinion. Yeah. Because, I mean, what are you getting, right? I mean, this is, there's a lot of hopium, embedded in this story, which is, we're gonna, it reminds me a little bit of Rumble, like at the beginning, because when you really kind of drill into it, it's like, well, I don't really have that much right now. The technology is not very good. They don't really have a great plan vis-a-vis advertising. Right now.
Speaking of, by the way, how did I hear about this stock? I heard about this stock because there was something on I don't know, must have been like a news site like Daily Mail that Tucker Carlson got his first advertising deal. I'm like, listen, what is this about? And so this company, Public Square, CLBR, they're actually paying Tucker Carlson 7 figures, over $1 million. Yep. And they're going to be the first ad that's going to be running on Tucker Carlson's Twitter show starting in August. So that's how I found out about it. So from a sentiment perspective, that's another catalyst, right? That could impact the stock in August.
Well, it's I think it's money well spent probably for them, right? Like I don't know how many followers Tucker has, but I'm sure it's in the millions. So if you handed him $1 million for a month, you're reaching millions of people for pennies, right? Like it's actually a pretty good deal for them. I don't
know how many times it's going to show, but he has 9 million followers on Twitter, and
So what's going to happen in the first phase here, right, is they're going to sign up a ton of customers. Everyone's going to download the app. Oh, I'm going to download the app. And then you're going to go and you're looking, it's like, all right, what am I going to buy? What's on here?
By the way, I downloaded the app and I didn't create an account. I didn't do anything because you can't do anything unless you email, username, password. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, so. It's a like I said, this is something that they hope to build.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it doesn't exist yet. There's no, there are no fundamentals yet for me to analyze. And by the way, if I were a patriotic religious person with an e-commerce business, I could go and host that on Etsy or Shopify or whatever, and then just tell my followers, hey, you could buy my stuff here.
I think what's driving this though is this kind of whole trend towards let's build a parallel economy. I think the people who are in this, people who are buying the stock, who are actually registering or users of that, I think their thinking is it's a little bit forward thinking, and all of this really accelerated after Parler was banned by Amazon Web Services. That was the watershed moment when all of these business plans started kicking into high gear. They're like, well, we're not safe, right? We could be shut down by Amazon. And, that's when Rumble really started taking off and Truth Social and everything, this whole idea of parallel economy. So I think that's where the impetus is coming from. So I think the folks who are using it, it's like, hey, I'm kind of committed. Instead of using Etsy or whatever, I just want to build, let's help this parallel economy get to critical mass so we're safe from cancel culture, cancel whatever culture. I think that's what's driving it.
Yeah, I understand all that. That's all wonderful. But you know what? I'm an investor here. I don't give a hoot about, the motivations behind this stuff. I don't see a lot of Rolex or Mercedes sponsorship at Trump rallies, and there's, lots of reasons for that.
That's right.
So, it's all fine and dandy, parallel economy. It's really eyewash, right? It's, hey, if you can raise money and you can get a deal like this done on the parallel economy thing, like, good for you. We've got no evidence that actually works, right? Like Black Rifle Coffee was like, well, that didn't really work. People, I'm not saying there aren't people who care about this. There are people who care about the circular economy and saving the environment and religious beliefs, all sorts of stuff. But what really drives consumers is convenience and price.
Exactly.
So that's why, again, this is not something that anyone should have a big position in either way. But if you are playing it and you want to play it for whatever reason, you're going to enjoy this. Stock's up 30% as we speak. So I wish I could. The puts right now are very sloppy in terms of trading, but they're still pretty interesting and attractive.
Okay. So, all right, you got one big puzzle piece for me. We got together here with the valuation approaching 500 million. So that's a caution flag for people who are in this long. So that's really helpful. Now, as far as typical kind of De-SPAC behavior, right? When the merger is done, that $10 floor is gone. So is there any other insights in terms of the price action today? The vote is today. The first day of trading is tomorrow. What kind of experience do you have that you can help us navigate what happens today and tomorrow? Usually, what have you noticed?
Well, generally, things go down a lot post. So if you look at the last couple, right, we had, Bitcoin Depot is a good example because I actually think they have a pretty good business. That one, closed June 30th and the stock dropped right away from 10 to 3. We had Freedom Acquisition did complete Solaria yesterday. That one went from 10 to $4.90. Carmel Therapeutics was last week. That went from 10 to 7. Marty Technologies was last week. That went from 10 to $1.86.
That happens though. That big move happens on the first day of trading, or happens when the vote is confirmed.
First day of trading, typically. Like, so, I mean, I'm not saying people might not. I mean, they could start selling it today because, I mean, I certainly would. But because you can't redeem it, you can't get $10 a share anymore, right?
You can't get. So the floor is out. The floor is gone.
I mean, I guess
once the redemption deadline is passed, is that when the floor is gone? Then when the redemption deadline's passed, right?
Yes. Although I suppose if the deal, which we don't have a PR yet, but if the deal, let's say the deal failed to go through for some reason, then
you can still redeem.
Then you would still be able to get your $10 because the company would probably run out of time to do a deal, in which case they'd have to ultimately return that cash to shareholders, or they'd have to offer another redemption for a shareholder vote. So until the deal is finalized and approved, in theory, you could hope for getting your $10 back.
Got it. So, and that's why we see all that volatility that happens kind of in between redemption expiration, announcement of the deal being actually passing. That's when you can start seeing volatility, even happening before day one of trading. You can see the stock go below $10.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Oh yeah, they're not keeping some of the history here, but Bitcoin Depot, like it opened like the next day at $4.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it never really, they consummated on June 30th, and then it opened on like July 3rd.
Wow.
And it opened at 4, and it was, it closed at.
Wow.
Actually, it held 4 for a little while, seemed to settle into 4, and it actually got as low as 2 and change. I should look at that again because it actually is a pretty interesting stock. I might want to look at that on the long side. That's a note to self.
So thank God I've never been on the the negative end of that. What I've seen is, I mean, the only De-SPACs I've played has been like CFVI, which was Rumble, and DWAC, which never De-SPACed, but I played it on the news. CFVI, on, if I recall correctly, on day one of trading, it opened at like $15, and then it went down from there. The peak was the open. It gapped up very, very much. One of the things that, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I thought on that first day when the ticker symbol changes, just based on my own experience at some brokerage apps, some people seem to be locked out. Yes, I do remember this clearly, actually. It did happen with CFEI on day one. There are a contingent of folks out there who are locked out of selling. It takes some of these brokerage apps like a day to adjust to the new QSIP number and the new ticker symbol, and some people can't sell high price on the first day.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I did see that with CFEI. I'm wondering maybe we can get the same thing happen here tomorrow morning with PSQ or.
That would be interesting. Yeah, it's dicey. Brokerages all have various lags, and it can be very confusing. It should be, I mean, it should be pretty smooth, although it's a little odd that we don't have any. I'm going to check my other feed, but I don't see any news yet on the.
Yeah, I haven't either.
That's kind of weird, right? Like,
I mean, I've seen the news come out often after the close on the day of the vote.
Okay.
It's not always like intraday. So I don't think that's a warning of anything, but so I'm looking at the chart here. I have it up on here. The one thing I can't really add much value to, this is why I want to really ask about the fundamentals, because in this case, I really want to get a handle, and you helped me with that. We're about 480 million closing in on. Looking at this chart, like, you can't make sense out of a chart like this. There's no moving averages yet. I mean, it's 2 days of data. Maybe one can say there's some resistance here at yesterday's high, at 13 to 14 area, something like that.
Yeah.
But like, I can't really do technical analysis on this chart. So that's why I want to know what the market cap is and kind of make a judgment, like at what market cap would the shorts really come in and slam this thing down. That's the way I'm trying to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the shorts, I mean, I think shorts are going to be, I don't know, like shorts could be scared of something like this just because of the low float. But by the way, right? I mean, this is something that kills SPACs often that people need to be aware of is like these SPACs, it's got a low float at any moment, right? They can like, do something where they release, they can release additional shares into the market. It all depends on, the lockups and the underwriters and all that. Yeah. They can also, they can do a deal at a lower price. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So the low float thing is very attractive, but it's not a fixed, it's not like Bitcoin or something where there's some mathematical boundary, right? It's like if they see the shares up here at 12, they might be like, oh, this is a great time to raise some capital. So, it's just caution is the watchword in these kind of things. They're fun to play. You can make some nice, short-term pocket change on both the long and the short side of these. But, mechanically, and if history is a guide, there's a, the most likely course of trading on this name is, single digits post de-SPAC.
Yeah. Even RUM, which probably has, out of the parallel economy stocks, RUM is probably the most, best position in terms of financial growth and revenue growth and everything like that. Even that is down to $8, like with all the success they've had. So it's definitely a hard thing. I don't think this is a long-term investment at all. No matter how successful they become, they're going to have to raise more money, like you said, with only $30 million coming to them. So this is a trade, been very helpful. We do have to go in a couple of minutes, but I want to point out last week we did a De-SPAC short squeezes, right? We're on top of this trend, actually. De-SPAC short squeezes. We went over a bunch of them, and you picked CLBT, I believe. Tell us about how that's going. This has been up very nicely since last week. Great job.
Yeah, I mean, CLBT, I said it's not a legit short squeeze name, but during our call, I looked at it, and this is actually a really intriguing De-SPAC. So I bought it while we were on our call, and it has performed very nicely. It's in a good space. I haven't had a chance to do real research on it. I noticed that Craig Hallam came out and put a buy on it with an $11 price target. Not sure what that's based on, but it was just very interesting. Now, the other thing I'm buying today, if CLBT worked, and I know you know the name well, but I think REL is set up really nicely.
Yeah.
Here.
REL has earnings tonight. Great.
I'd love to see a stock like REL down into the ER.
I am with you.
Calls tomorrow. I think, all the fundamentals in their power business, which is really what drives everything, are super good. So, and as I mentioned to you in the chat, they scheduled an investor visit and tour for August 11th, which there's, REL may not be the most IR savvy company in the world, but I don't think they would schedule that day if they didn't have really good visibility on their business.
When is that event?
August 11th.
Okay, in a month. Okay.
It's like in some, boondocks outside of Chicago, so I'm not going to be able to go to it. But but anyway, I like the setup going into ER. I'm not a huge ER fan, but REL's a name we know well. It's very cheap. Great drivers in power semiconductors. I don't anticipate, an announcement they're spinning off healthcare or anything, but I like the risk reward here going into
the earnings. Me too. We're in it. I'm not sure that we're really playing earnings. We have a long-term position. So we kind of have like a full long-term position. Let's put it that way. But earnings are scary. So we're not really having extra shares or trading shares to the earnings report. But we're going to be monitoring this closely. Today at 4 p.m., we're going to do an interactive Zoom for our VIP members, and we'll be looking at Tesla, Netflix, REL, and IBM earnings right at the close, and maybe we'll do some live trading and live analysis on those earnings calls at 4 p.m. But yeah, I like it very much as well. And just a last shout out, you'd had Hood a few weeks ago, and that's been, I mean, coin's gone, exploded, and I think Hood is following that. If you're still in that, you're making great money on Hood. Congrats.
Yeah, I have Hood in my long-term, not my trading account, but in my long-term account, because it's, I think they'll get acquired at some point. They have a great user base that is very attractive. So I'm glad it's up over 20%, I think, from there. So.
Sounds good. We're going to get going, and I think we're going to put this video out on social media in full this afternoon because it's very newsworthy with CLBR. So we're going to make sure to get the word out and share your great analysis with everyone. Thank you so much, Chris.
All right, Ben. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.